2 days ago, the Texas Congress passed the exact same law, a much larger state. It hasn't been put into practice. I think the governor hasn't signed it yet, but he's going to. And so, especially in the South, this is something. Okay. So Mark,
Hi.
Wonderful. I'm
Thank
thrilled
you.
to meet you.
Welcome. This is the last day of the show, so good timing.
I want you to know that out of 300 exhibits, I chose what I thought were the 7 most extraordinary, and that's why.
Well, I've been on his tours, and I am very, very, very honored that you guys are here. That's a huge compliment. I'm born and raised in Texas, and I moved to New York in '84, and I lived on Charles Street, the West Side Highway.
I live on Charles Street.
Yeah.
1982 Charles Street.
162.
Okay.
So anyway, in my neighborhood for years, I would always see at like 6:30 or whatever I was going to the airport, gym, whatever, I'd always see a lot of these girls working the streets. And I would see it start to vanish a little bit. So I thought 3 or 4 years ago, as a photographer, it was important for me to start to document the things that would vanish. My focus was not transgender, it wasn't anything more than just some destination. So I started on Christopher Street as a solid waterman photograph, and I started to ask people, which was kind of not a particular style I'd worked with in a long, long time, but very documentary in nature, where I'd go and I'd ask people if I could photograph them. And we would just literally, walk up to somebody like this young lady and say, "Can I take your picture?" And she would go like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm just taking pictures of the neighborhood." So I'd set up my little Hasselblad camera, and sometimes I'd have a LED light I would use, but I'd use a lot of natural light. And I would spend 5-10 minutes with somebody, and we would shoot 4 or 5 people in an evening. And as I went along taking these pictures, I started to hear the stories, and then it started to make sense to me that not only were we on this kind of a path of transgender, but it was much bigger and a much misunderstood world. And so I dug kind of deep into the world, and one afternoon, we pretty much only photographed women. One afternoon we had met these 2 women that are over here on this wall in white shirts. I think it's on these 2 young ladies over here introduced us to a trans panel in the neighborhood. We went to this trans panel, and we were there, and we met our guys. And our first 4 or 5 guys that were speaking, one was 7, which is on the wall on the far left, in the sweatshirt, and then one was Javon, who's on the other side. And so they welcomed us into, trans guys' world, and we had a chance to get to meet our trans guys and start to photograph them. So
Can I just interrupt you? So in the beginning, you weren't particularly photographing trans people, just neighborhood people.
Yeah.
Were you focused on sort of like gay-ish people, or just really
more theatrical?
Theatrical, okay.
It was more of kind of the theater people that were, they were kind of loud and funny,
Okay.
and it was kind of a world that I had seen, but I had sort of avoided. I'd always kind of walked past the street. But the more I kind of got used to being in the village and started to fall in love with all those aspects, I started to see it disappear. And then it made sense to me that it was important to be able to kind of tell this story. And that's really where the body of work came from. And then Rizzoli asked me to publish the book with them last spring in the fall, and we kind of pushed it in order to be able to get the book out in time for all the conversation.
So he's selling only the large pieces, and there's $7,500 and 7 of each, and you're selling a book.
Yeah.
For how much?
I think the book is, how much is the book, Frankie? $55.
$55.
And the donations go to a wonderful trans organization too.
So this is the only show that's closing today, so if you have any interest in buying either a photograph or the book, pick up the card, and then you don't have to buy it today.
So the large prints, we limited the large prints because the show's going to LA on next Saturday to Von Lintel Gallery, in order to be able to keep that gallery happy, because this was more or less a pop-up. We didn't show a lot of the large prints, but the large prints are all done in trays. It's a silver gelatin process that we do in a traditional darkroom. And the printer is a gentleman who used to print for Richard Avedon. So they're selenium tone, permanent, beautiful, black and white, just silver tone.
And this is film camera, not digital.
Yeah.
Why do you choose film and not digital these days?
This was for me was more or less a paintbrush. So I decided to use a particular kind of film that I know works very well in low light, and a Hasselblad camera, which I loved, which was a square format. It was one of the first cameras and formats that I used when I started in photography.
Eventually there won't be film photography because manufacturers won't make them because there won't be the, in the same way you can't buy a record player unless it's, you know, antique. You know, like they're just not making them anymore. And so when you know, they'll be in museums. So this is the last of the, you know, film photography, you know, era.
So unfortunately it's true. And the smaller ones, which are not for sale, are all Epson prints that were printed on a machine. And if you notice the irregularities and the beauty of a tray print is kind of what we go for as a photographer. And so each print looks a little bit different, but they're all printed by hand and they're very meticulously done. These you can kind of just print out one after another. They look pretty much the same.
Given how dramatic and colorful these people are, why black and white?
Black and white is just a passion for me. It's something that I've always done. And again, once I kind of decided that I was going to stay on the street and not, you know, shoot in the studio, the black and white process for me just seemed like the right mix. You know, it was really a personal choice. And like I said, when I'm working on a personal project, what I'll do is I'll try a couple different cameras and try a couple of different processes. And those things are equally important to me and the other 50% of actually picking the subject matter.
So here's your chance to ask the artist, which my one collector didn't get a chance because he didn't know we were coming.
When you say it's dying out, I don't think you mean the culture. Do you mean like West Village real estate?
Well, you see a lot of, and you can probably back me up on this, that whole area has been gentrifying for the last decade, but most recently it started to change hands of a lot of people coming in, there are a lot of stores coming in and flipping over, the prices are just going up. And so a lot of public space, you know, it gets policed.
Well, like the bars are gone, because it's just too expensive. My understanding is that it's moving to Brooklyn. Is that where you're hearing as well?
Yeah. And
which is not cheap.
Yeah, which is like more
Brooklyn is also gentrifying, but that's sort of the next, you know.
It's going to Weehawken, New Jersey.
That's not a joke.
But yeah, I mean, you know, I just feel like the West Village is, you know, it's still beautiful and charming, but it's definitely lost, you know, a particular, I think, as you said, sort of theater to it.
Another question. Here's a rare opportunity.
Most of them post pictures after getting to know the.
Every one of my subjects I kind of talked to, and we work together on the image. Probably the fastest one that I took was, and you can kind of see it in her expression over here. She really just picked up her Chinese food and was walking home to have dinner, and I asked her if I could take a picture, and she was like, you know, honey, you're just going to be quick, because my food's getting cold. At least that's what I imagined she was saying.
Some of these people, I can tell they're transgender, but like the guy in the gym, how did you figure out that he was?
He was actually a, you know, with the guys, they were referred to us. So we met people at the trans panel, and then they said, oh, I know this really wonderful guy, you know, that you really like, and he's really, you know, fully transitioned, so you should meet him. And Ben is actually from England, but was visiting and spent a little bit of time in the West Village, and so we did this picture with him. But for like I said, like 70% of the people that we photographed, we met on the street. The guys were impossible because you can't really tell.
One last question.
Is the release that you have them signed different because it's transgender and you're going to identify as transgender now?
No, the only thing is you have to make sure that they're all 18. We had trouble with one because she said that she was 18, but she wasn't. She was 16. And then when we finally decided to publish the book, we had to get her mom to sign. Thank you, guys. Oh, go ahead.
I want to say one thing, and we're going to give you a hand, but it's taken decades for society to get used to gay people. I happen to be gay. We're just starting to get used to transgender. Next on the horizon, non-gender identified people. They're a growing group. People who do not want to be male or female. So if you think gay and trans was tough for society to swallow, we're just at the beginning, okay, of non-gender.
I know you guys are on a world tour here. In the back, if you just peek in, we have a little documentary, so you can just hear a couple of words while you're walking through. And thank you again.
We don't have time because we had two more, but let's give them a huge hand. Thank you so much. Thank you. If you arranged it, that was fantastic. Of course, yes.
So what's your tour called?
It's New York Gallery Tours.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Okay, my group, we're gonna go, this is our longest walk, 3 blocks, but our 5-2 galleries are half a block from the stage. We're gonna go right 16 blocks.
I'm at the very
And then
block.
turn right, it's right
Still wanting, I didn't know where you were.
No.
Oh yeah, I bought yeah, okay, back in 1987.
Long day. Long day.
Yeah, we restored that building. It was Ralph from Husband and Motorcycle Shop on the corner. That's right. I remember Ralph. Yep. It was great. Nice to see you. Thank you for coming by. Hey! Yeah. Hi, guys. So glad you came. Wow. Oh, great. Great. So nice to see you.
Yeah, I'm glad to see you, and we missed the opening night. Judy said that.
Sorry, I don't want to take your personal moment, so I just want to thank you. This is incredible
so much.
work.
Yeah,
I mean,
thank
you know,
you.
thank you.
Thank
I
you.
didn't realize you were Mark.
Oh yeah. Come on, let's get it where it's a little warmer in here.
Yes, yes. No, I got that. So thank you for all those words because I can share that with my friends at home. I'm from Toronto, so
Oh, wonderful.
yeah, I wanted to. Yeah, and I stumbled on it, so thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks for coming by. Yeah, so this is, I'll give you the quick.
I was here.
This is
Ciao.
a mixture, I mean, everything here is, obviously,
Did I say ciao? God, it's so cheesy to end it that way, but there it is. Yeah, like incredible stuff. So let's go outside and we'll get it so you can see it. Thank you. Good night.
was one of the only ones I read.